All right, so we're going to make a response video to Verlisify's new video that he made. He's just spewing complete idiocy. We're going to be using buzzwords like idiots, morons, stupid, haters. We're going to be using all of that stuff. Um, this video here is a piece of work. I watched all 18 minutes of it, and I wasn't ready for this. Like, you really have to be in a mindset to watch a Verlisify video, and I thought I might have been in it. I had a couple beers, so I think I'm ready to actually give an appropriate response to this. So we're going to start the same way Verlisify does. You know, we're going to have our OBS program pointed at a web page, and we're just going to, you know, record the things that he's talking about. That's what we're going to do, and we're going to prove him wrong. We're going to not insult Verlisify's fan base, no matter how much I want to, and we are going to destroy everything that he's saying. That's what it says here. Every Game Freak hater destroyed. I'm a Game Freak hater apparently because I work hard for my money and I want to have a good product. Yeah, I'm a hater because I don't want to just give my money to half-assed things. So here's what we're going to get into. This video is not going to be family friendly, but I mean, most Verlisify videos aren't, so I guess we're good on that. So let's just go ahead and jump into this and just listen to what he's saying. It's good stuff.
Platform that is available to you. Twitter, Facebook groups, Discord groups, Reddit, all of that, because what this post shows is that the Pokemon community has gotten so rabid and so toxic.
You hear that, right? We are rabid and toxic. We're completely toxic because an interview from Famitsu says that all the old models had to be recreated from scratch. I can almost 100% guarantee, and I don't do 100% guarantees, but I can almost guarantee you 100% that's not the case. But yes, let's just see what he's got to say about that.
That it is actively suppressing the truth. That what happened to this post is that it got so downvote bombed that it never got hot. It never got trending. It was never able to get the truth to the people that need to be informed the most, and it absolutely blows my mind.
The truth.
Here we have it, guys.
The
Japanese
truth.
interview.
Verlisify's got the truth.
Reveals all old models had to be recreated from scratch. No wonder they're trying to suppress this, because 90% of the arguments against Game Freak get completely crushed by that statement right there.
No, these models were not made from scratch. I don't think you understand how much work has to go into creating a 3D model and making it look 100% accurate. It's like telling somebody to draw a picture and then telling them to draw that picture again and make it look exactly like that. The problem that people are having with that is these models look the exact same. And if they went out of their way to recreate every single old model to make it look like the old ones, then that's just adding to the problem because they aren't doing anything new with them. That's what we're saying.
In this Famitsu article, they reveal that when they went to transfer models and move animations into Sword and Shield, they didn't transfer overwrite, forcing to rebuild them from scratch.
Okay, going into that, if you know anything about 3D modeling, you know how meshes work. A lot of the times, you simply just can't take an animation and put it on a mesh and make it work. You ever see those really weird amalgamations that Super Smash Brothers did when people started taking, like, Captain Falcon's animations and putting it on Pikachu and seeing how they warped? That's what will happen because animations are made specifically for a model. If you know anything about weight mapping, which is how the mesh deforms with certain animations, so pixels, I don't know why you said pixels, the faces, the triangles, the things that make the 3D model don't deform and shoot off into negative space somewhere. It makes the model look good. When you see a 3D animation, that's what's going on. The animations have been made specifically for that mesh. Those animations were weighed properly for that mesh to prevent it from deforming. You simply cannot take an old animation like that and put it on a new 3D model. They don't work like that. And also, I don't think you understand how 3D models work. You can absolutely take a 3D model from anything and put it into a new engine. It's literally why certain games might give you like the PlayStation skin for Lara Croft. That's how that works. Those 3D models can be exported and put in. Yeah, you have to do a little bit of extra work to make sure it works, but you don't have to remake those things.
Keep in mind, Game Freak, now this is actually not a part of the interview. This is like fluff added in, but it's also fairly inaccurate. I think it's also causing people to respond inaccurately as well. Keep in mind, Game Freak only has 143 employees, only half of which are working on Pokemon, the other half on town. But
do you know how much money Game Freak makes? Do you know how much money Pokemon makes? How much money Nintendo makes? All three of those companies are involved in making Pokemon. If they can't get more than 143 people to make what is their biggest IP, then there's a problem. The money is there. They can absolutely get more people to do it. And I'm not going to say all 143 of these people are going to do that. Not all of them are going to be animators. Not all of them are going to be 3D modelers or concept artists. But they can absolutely pay to get more artists in there. I made a video that I didn't post because it's pretty bad. But if they really need help getting people, they could just make a post somewhere on the internet saying we are looking for fans to help animate and model 3D Pokemon. This isn't a paid position, but your name will be in the credits of the game. You have no idea how many people will just step up and do that. I would do that. I do 3D animation. I would love to animate Pokemon. It'd be great. It's easy to do. I can grab the animations that or the models that they already have, put them into the game, and work with them. It's easy. They've got the resources available to them, and they're not using them. And if they're going to put all of this work on just a handful of employees, then that too is a part of the problem. They have probably not billions, they got billions of dollars, but they've got millions of dollars that they can just pour into this, getting people to put the work in. This isn't an argument. They can make it work.
the thing is, Pokemon Sword and Shield has been in development for like 3 to 4 years, which is probably longer than Town. So early on, they probably had all of Game Freak or all the people available working on this. And when you think about it, 143 employees is not 143 modelers. There's
True.
a lot of coders involved. There's a lot of different asset development. There's just all kinds of different things going on. There's people.
Well, yes, there is a bunch of things going on, but they literally have the money to make this. The money that they make from one Pokemon game can literally go into making another one. Even if they've been working on this for the last 3 years, there's no evidence of that, but I will assume that they've been working on it for the last at least 3 years. They may have been working on it more, but if they knew that they were going to have this problem, then you pay people to make those 3D models. And for what I'm seeing, considering we've got Pokken Tournament with those really high quality 3D models, and the models from the Detective Pikachu, you know, models that actually take crafting to make, the fact that they still look like this is the problem.
That are just about battle planning and working on the battle systems, and they don't even touch any like the crazy code stuff. It's just dedicated to balancing. So it's not like, oh, Game Freak only had 70 people instead of, 140 people to make all the models. No, instead they probably had like 12 people instead of 20, and they probably had like all 20 or 30 when it came to developing the new models.
Okay. Do you know how many people worked on Grand Theft Auto 5? Literally 1,000. 1,000 people worked on Grand Theft Auto 5 because they have the money available to them to get the people to make sure the work gets done. You don't get to make these big, expansive games with just a handful of people. If you do, you're going to have problems. This whole thing keeps going back to the funds that they have available to them. It's not like this is an indie studio where you would expect maybe 20 people to make a game. This is Pokemon, who have had games out for over 10 years, who've been making games. The problem is that none of the games really push the bar. They're always the same thing. There should be no reason why we have the same attack animation since ever. I mean, you see what they can do with Pokemon Battle Revolution, what Pokemon Stadium did. Even the mini games, Pokemon had super expressive animations because they cared. If they cared about this, they would do more.
Early on, when they realized there was a problem with transferring things over, and didn't really impact this at all. So that's something. So basically, while the same animations of the Pokemon themselves are copied and pasted, most, if not all, the Pokemon models had to be redone.
Not true.
On top of that issue, Dynamaxing forces Game Freak to produce extra models for each and every Pokemon because you just can't take the same model, increase its size by 10, and expect it to look even half decent.
That's also not true. You absolutely can take the same models. 3D models are, I don't want to say they're vector because they're not, but they are math related. The computer, the program, knows where to place pixels. A 3D model doesn't pixelate when you scale it up because 3D models are meant to be scaled. The only thing that might look bad, half decent, is when you're using literally 128 by 128 pixel texture maps. Maybe they have to go back and repaint texture maps. That's something that I can actually see them doing because you simply just can't scale those up and make them look good because those are pixel related. Anything that's pixel, you can't do that with because it has to be able to reinterpret those pixels when you scale it up. When something is vector, you don't actually have to do that because the computer, the CPU, the processor, the GPU, the things that actually control where 3D models go, how they're built, and all those stuff, that determines how big it can get. Now, it might actually slow things down when things start getting too big, but those triangles, those faces, those are still there. If a 3D model has, say, 3 million faces, it will have 3 million faces whether you shrink it down really small or you blow it up. That's how that works. So you absolutely can take a 3D model and scale it up by 10 because that's what they are designed to do.
And that's true as well.
No, it's not.
So the whole thing about Game Freak being lazy, they had to remake all the models, which means the arguments of people that saying, oh, it's just the same thing that we've seen since Pokemon X and Y, wrong. That also means that the people that are so delusional and intolerant of fact that they actually believe that Game Freak was lying when they said they were making higher fidelity models for...
But no, because we know how this shit works. I've done 3D animation and modeling. I know how this works. People have done 3D animation and 3D modeling. They know how this shit works. We're not saying that they're just doing it because they're being lazy. I mean, it's just being lazy. But you make 3D models so you don't have to remake them all the time. It's the reason why game developers can keep assets available to them. You don't have to remake every single asset. You just make sure it looks good for whatever new thing that you're going with. Whether you have to increase the triangle count or whatever, you can do all that just with a click of a button in whatever 3D modeling program that you're making. It's literally that easy.
Pokemon Sword and Shield, those people are also completely proven wrong at this point. Again, almost every argument has been completely erased.
What
by
argument?
This one statement. The only thing is like, oh, well, they're still using the same animations. Yes, after recreating all of the models and developing the entirety of the Galar region. Well,
like I said, it doesn't work that way. You cannot make new 3D models and just take pre-existing animations and put them on there because it breaks the model. That's not how that works.
Also putting in new high fidelity animations as well.
What high fidelity animations?
It doesn't even need to be this new trailer. This trailer just came out from the Japanese Pokemon channel yesterday, but if you look at any of them, you can see that there's existing Pokemon with new animations as well. Some are recycled, some are new. It happens to be that way. Does Bunnelby really need to have a completely different recoil animation? No. And it also...
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of Pokemon are going to have new animations. Pikachu gets new animations all the time, and they've been using that 3D model since the Wii. Eevee gets new animations all the time. If you look at Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, those are the exact same models, and they've gotten new animations because you can add new animations to existing models if you still have that animation set. But they're not taking the time to make new models and then putting the same existing animations on them. It doesn't work that way. I mean, maybe you can get it to work that way, but I've never been able to make that work. I can't just make a new animation or a new model and put a pre-existing animation on it because things are always going to be different. The scale is always going to be different. It actually takes a lot more time and effort to do that. like so much more time.
Also brings up another point that the Pokemon community just has to kind of forget about. This ultimate fact of life that really just destroys a lot of their arguments. That graphics are always and only second to gameplay.
Well,
if
yeah.
the graphics convey what is trying to be told through gameplay, then it is successful. Does Bunnelby need to have anything more extravagant?
I think he's misusing graphics here, though.
Quality improve? No, it does not. But also, like I said, we've been seeing these higher quality animations for a while now. But I mean, look at that. Mantine actually flying out of the water and flapping in a realistic way. It gets like one.
You do realize that is the exact same animation that Mantine has, right? The only difference is that they put an arc on its motion path to convey that. It's the exact same otherwise.
One good big swoop out there, timed in with its jump. So it's not just like a random flailing Mantine recycle evolution. No, it all makes sense and it all works together. And then the entirety of the Galar region being made from scratch, while also including gameplay that is more ambitious than any.
Like, to be perfectly honest with you, I really do think that Pokemon Sword and Shield looks exactly like Pokemon, what was the newest one? Omega Ruby, no, not Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Pokemon Sun and Moon. It looks exactly like that, except it doesn't have the sprite shader on it. They look like they use a more realistic shader, but generally the game looks the exact same. Like, look at Wobbuffet. They didn't completely remake this 3D model. It's the exact same. This one here is the exact same. Like, even if you put a what are they called? A reference sheet. If you put a reference sheet in front of the same person and told them to use that reference sheet and make that 3D model and tell them to do that 10 times, 20 times, it will look different every single time.
Anything else Game Freak has ever done. That Pokemon Sword and Shield will have more features and more work put into them than any other existing Pokemon game.
Well, sure.
Once again, that is a fact that these people are just kind of glossing over because it destroys their arguments.
What arguments?
And in this delicate 2019 culture,
all we want is that the game that we are spending our money on, you know, the money that we work hard for. Like I said in my other video, that I work, you know, between 50 and 60 hours a week, sometimes Saturdays and Sundays. You know, the money that I work hard for, and if I'm giving it to a company, I want to feel that the company is also matching, you know, that hard work. Maybe they don't do exactly what I'm doing, but they get paid to make games. They get paid to make sure that they look halfway decent. Pokemon Sword and Shield, it looks good. It looks good. The game looks like a Pokemon game. But the problem that we're having is that they are removing features from the game because they are saying that they are making things better, make things feel more expressive. This doesn't look any different to me from any other Pokemon game that I've played on a 3DS. It looks the exact same. So what we're saying is, okay, the game looks the same. The 3D animations are recycled. You can look at just by at the double kick animation. The 3D models look the same. If they are remade, then we can't tell, which is a problem. So to us right now, the Pokemon community, we're saying, okay, the game looks the same, the Pokemon look the same, and the 3D animations are the same. So far, we know that they are reusing animations. So if they're reusing animations, what else are they reusing? It doesn't seem too far-fetched to assume that they're reusing Pokemon models too. These Pokemon models look like the ones that exist in the 3DS games. And no one would be wrong for saying that. That's what we're saying. We're not trying to be toxic or anything. We're just pointing out a fact here. This building in the back, that's probably an original creation. I haven't seen that in any other Pokemon game. But that Wobbuffet looks the exact same. That Beware looks the exact same. Even that tree with the berries on it. That's probably not the exact same looking tree though, but I mean, it looks like a Pokemon tree. I wouldn't be surprised if they just had that in an asset pack somewhere.
People just can't handle being wrong, and it's super sad to see.
You can't handle being wrong.
That people are just this intolerant.
What do you mean intolerant? You are the single most toxic person in the Pokemon community, Verlisify. You are. You're the only one that's being the voice, and you unfortunately have a lot of people following you. I mean, that's their right. They can do whatever they want, who will agree with you. But you're basically saying that there's nothing wrong with the way Pokemon Sword and Shield is being handled right now. The rest of us disagree because we do believe it's being handled poorly.
And since this is about graphics and stuff, I want to talk about that Chinese game a bit more because
Yeah, please
idiots
do.
are just mindlessly
Idiots.
parroting
Call
all
us
the
an idiot.
nonsense they're hearing from other people who are also just sheepish idiots at the same time.
Ooh, again.
Because they're like, wow, I can't believe a Chinese game looks better than Pokemon Sword and Shield. Really? Really?
Well, yeah, the Chinese game, I don't want to say it looks better. You know, mobile games have their own graphics engines and stuff like that. And nobody's really saying that the Chinese game looks better. If you look at the name of the link, Chinese mobile bootleg has better animations than the official product. No one is saying that the game looks better. You remember that thing that you said earlier in the video where it's just being misinterpreted? You're misinterpreting this. Nobody is saying this Chinese game looks better than the official game because Pokemon Sword and Shield looks better than this. What we're saying is this here is the exact same Pikachu model that the Pokemon company is using. And look at how expressive they're making it. That Pikachu 3D model is capable of that. The Pokemon 3D models that other people are using for their source filmmaker animations are capable of these things. And we're seeing what the fans are doing with this. But they're not doing this themselves. Yes, this is a super move, and super moves are always going to look good. But what about the super moves in Pokemon Sun and Moon? What about those? The Z moves. You remember the Z move with Talonflame, Toucannon, where he does Supersonic Sky Strike and he just comes falling out of the sky in his idle animation? That's a super move. Guess what? Toucannon is a new Pokemon using a new mechanic, and they couldn't even care enough to animate it. That's a new Pokemon. It's not like they're taking a Pidgeot or something and making it do that for the animation so they don't have to do more work. That's a brand new Pokemon with a brand new mechanic, and they couldn't even care enough to animate that. I mean, that's the shit we're talking about here.
Knockoff gacha game that has literally 1/100th of the work put into Pokemon Sword and Shield. This looks better than this?
Again, nobody is saying that game looks better than this. They are saying the animation. That's it. It's just the animation.
Then everything that Pokemon Sword and Shield has got going on and has showed us so far, all the new characters, all the...
Again, look at all the animations that you just showed from the Tyranitar walking. That's a pre-used animation on the exact same model. Look here at Abomasnow. That's the exact same animation, the exact same models. Glalie, the exact same models and animations.
Unique animations, all of the enhanced cutscenes bringing us graphic quality that we've never seen before in a Pokemon game.
Okay, well, the graphic quality does look good, I guess, for a Pokemon game. But let's just take a look at this here. People nowadays don't actually draw on the features that you see here. They don't usually draw these on anymore. Same here. I don't know what this thing's name is. I don't know what any of these Pokemon names are. But they don't draw these on anymore. They're still doing this exact same art style because this is what they're used to. But every single Pokemon is still looking like this. Why is that?
So you're saying that all that is beaten by this. And people are like, but the Pikachu ear wiggle. You know the reason why it looks that way, right? Is because the model straight up breaks. That, yeah, it's more expressive, but imagine if someone paused a Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Okay, so I don't think you know anything about model breaking. The model isn't breaking here. This is just something that it's capable of doing. Yes, you exaggerate more for animation, and sometimes you might have to break something. I don't know if you saw that screenshot of a 3D modeler, maybe an animator too, took one of the panels from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure where he had like his hand facing the awkward way in order to get that shot. But he had to actually break the 3D model and extend the arm outward like several feet in order to convey that that motion that they're going for. If I do any kind of processing on this video, I'll link it in there. and show you that. But that's model breaking. That is model breaking. This isn't model breaking. Pikachu's ears aren't turning in an unbelievable way. You absolutely think this can happen. I mean, it looks like Pikachu's tail is clipping through the body. I mean, that's clearly an error. They could fix that. But again, it's like you said, it's a Chinese knockoff game. They make these things about a dozen. I've played like 8 of them. They run them for a year, get as much money as they can, and close the servers. I hate it. It's a real shitty thing to do. But you absolutely expect Pikachu's ears to move like this. When a body is in motion, things move with it. That's just a fact of life. And Pokemon models in the official games don't convey this enough. You want them to feel lively. You want them to feel like they are alive in their world. And this Pikachu, in the context of this world, feels lively. This isn't something that we get from Pokemon games. Even a lot of the Z moves on Pokemon specific Pokemon, like the Extreme Evo boost, Pikachu's what's it called, Catastrophe Pika or something like that. Even those don't even seem that expressive.
Trailer, and it looked like this. There would be more hell thrown than ever before. But no, it's acceptable when you just want to be right and you can't handle reality or facts or anything like that. Like, they have to destroy the stolen model to make it look more expressive. I mean, even like that, when they're like, look at the ear wiggle, and when I saw it, like, look at that! That's gross!
Yeah, it does look bad.
It's terrible. It makes it more expressive, but that looks like it's from some cringy fan animation from a kid that just discovered what Blender is and learned basic rigging in a couple of tutorials on YouTube.
I mean, this is clearly a fan animation, and I know a bunch of people who actually use Blender just like you just said, and it doesn't look as good as this. It's usually sound effects added, the model turning in T-pose. It's mostly stuff like that, but nobody's going to be able to jump on YouTube and watch like a 2-hour video and be able to do that. These people know how to do 3D animation. And yes, the air breaking is that's more of a problem of how they ripped the mesh than the actual animation being wrong. But you can even look in Pokemon games and see the same thing. When you see Electrode, you see every individual face as the light reflects on them. You might not see that now since the Switch is more powerful, but you never know. They're reusing the same models. That's the point that we're trying to say here, or the point we're trying to make. Yeah.
That's not quality, and people are saying that's better than Pokemon Sword and Shield just because it moves more. There's limitations and there's things that need to be available. Like,
that's absolutely how that works.
Look at, you don't have a compressed GIF that you can't actually analyze, and they're like, just look at that, it's better. Nah, it's not a better animation, but the idiots will still. It is a better animation. That. No, it's a fan project. And yes, if you take one indie person that is specializing, reusing models, reusing assets, and just taking all these things and then making something that looks nice, you can get something that looks nice. But then you have to scale that up to the entirety of the game. And another thing that was pointed out to me in the comment section is that this is pretty much just like Chinese gacha shovelware.
Yeah.
There's a Digimon game that plays roughly similar, and it actually reuses this room and layout.
Yeah.
So it's just reskin with Pokemon. So it even shows that it's not like, oh, some Chinese dude whipped this together in a year and it looks better than Pokemon Sword and Shield. No, this is like years of a team of rip-off artists that have been able to just like, just fit whatever IP they want to into a gacha style and then make it look bad. Like that. So it's like, well, Charizard's flame doesn't come out of its mouth. It doesn't do that properly in the Chinese game anyway.
Well, it doesn't do it properly there, and I see the issues there, but the problem is that it doesn't even do it. A fire attack, it just spawns in front of them. I saw a Pokemon doing a fire attack, and it like came out of their stomach or something, simply because the model was just way too big, and that's just where the attack spawned from. That's the thing that we're talking about. We should not be having things like that anymore. And the fact that rip-off games, as you call them, we'll just call them that because that's what they are, rip-off games are doing that better is a problem. We're not looking at, even if you take away from the rip-off games, what about Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2? What about those games where when Blastoise did a hydro pump, he actually shot the hydro pump from his cannons instead of from his mouth? Why is Mega Blastoise using hydro pump from his mouth when he has 3 cannons? He has 3 cannons. It's like, yeah, it's not going to do any extra damage, but visually it looks cool. What about Pokemon Battle Revolution, where Pokemon had custom animations, or sometimes, and not all the times, even they did lazy stuff too. But even most of the time that a Pokemon did an animation, it was appropriate for what they were going for. Now, Pokemon Battle Revolution wasn't as detailed as, say, Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 were. Those games absolutely looked great. When a Pokemon did a thing, you could believe they actually did that thing because it worked. In Pokemon Stadium 1, it might did the same thing in 2, but when you did an attack and it missed, the attack still happened. And you just saw the fallout of the attack. Well, not the fallout, but like the attack missing. Like it did a hyper beam and it missed. It dissolved around the Pokemon, but you still saw the hyper beam. That was cool. They don't do that now. The attack misses, nothing happens. It's just mechanics. And yes, mechanics need to make a game feel good, but mechanics backed by animations feel even better. This is supposed to be a Pokemon world.
And you guys are holding this up as the gold standard because you just want to be stupid.
What do you mean you want to be stupid? Nobody's looking at this and saying, this is how Pokemon needs to be. I mean, this is kind of how Pokemon Masters is going to look, but nobody's looking at this and saying, yes, this is the pinnacle of Pokemon here. We're saying bootleg games have better animations. Fans are capable of making better animations. Even Pokemon games made by third-party developers have better animations. So, one of the three, which have been licensed by Nintendo or the Pokemon Company, are capable of making better animations, then why can't the Pokemon Company themselves do that? They have access to these assets. They have them. They're on their hard drive. What's the argument here?
So, I mean, you look at that, you look at the animations, you look at the attacks, and it's even more basic, and someone keep pointing out, like, dude, the Charizard's dead. They can't even program Charizard's tail flame. And people are like, nah, it looks better. You know, Charizard just kind of like popping a squat over there and then spin out a little bit of a fireball.
Well, I mean, the tail flame on Charizard missing is a problem. I noticed that too, and a lot of mobile games typically don't include those things, but they literally just make these games to cash in and then close the servers. They don't care. The thing is, Pokemon Company is saying that they care. And we're looking at it and saying, well, no, you don't, because if you cared, we wouldn't have a game with half the Pokemon missing. We would have a Pokemon game where the animations actually fit. If you cared, you'd probably spend a couple $1 billion developing this game, even if you make it at a loss, just to make sure it looks good and resonates well with the fans. If they cared, they would absolutely do those things.
I don't get it. So that's kind of what I want to point out. It's like when you break down each thing, it's just complete nonsense. And then we can go to the comments, and once again, with the most basic common sense and basic critical thinking skills,
okay,
you can actually just debunk all these guys' idiocy.
Let's debunk it.
The biggest reason we have issue with this is because the small dev team working on Pokemon shouldn't be an excuse. It is the problem. Well, for starters, Pokemon hires on temp work, but those don't count as like full-fledged employees to the company. This happened with all the other games. You know, Gen 6 had well over 200 people working on it, if I recall. Yeah, because then you act like, have you seen the credits for Pokemon Sun and Moon? Game Freak has a staff of 140, hundreds of people in the credits for Pokemon Sun and Moon, and not all of them are like localization teams and stuff, because they get extra teams and extra people to contribute work towards it, and they managed to make over 700 models, except as we talked about earlier, not every single person that works for Game Freak is a 3D modeler, and it...
Well, the thing is that they can pay people to do that. They have the money to do it. It's not like the Pokemon Company operates at a loss or just barely profitable. The Pokemon Company makes billions of dollars every single year. This company is stacked. Game Freak, they make a lot of money. Nintendo, they have a lot of money. And even if the Pokemon Company and Game Freak suddenly went bankrupt, and let's just use this as an example, the Pokemon Company would still be able, Nintendo, would still be able to fund the game. They could.
Wasn't made for Pokemon X and Y. The Pokedex 3D Pro came out before that. So the dev team had a longer time to make those 700 models of less graphic fidelity than what we see inside Pokemon Sword and Shield, while also...
Okay, about remaking Pokemon models, the only Pokemon model I can think that had been remade recently was Pidgeot's model. I think they remade that one. And to be clear, every Pokemon model has been remade at some point, but I think Pidgeot is the only one that really benefited from having a model remade. If you looked at Pokemon Battle Revolution, the Japanese version of Pokemon Battle Revolution, you will see that the model for Pidgeot they have in that game is the one used in Pokemon Stadium. They made a new Pokemon model for the entire Pidgey family, I think, for that game. As a matter of fact, if I can find a screenshot of that, I would do that because I had to download the Japanese version at one point so I could just see what the difference was. And that was one that I did notice. Pidgeot had a new model for that game. So that's probably the only one I can even think of that had a brand new model made.
To making a smaller region with less complex gameplay features. They buffed up staffing instead of cutting it. I don't think we'd be having this controversy. Except we would be, because the biggest thing is Game Freak also just straight up doesn't want all the Pokemon in the games. Through interviews they said they've been considering this decision for a while now. So this could have happened in Pokemon Sun and Moon. With Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, they gave themselves a little bit of a break, and they still committed this. They don't think that you can appreciate all of the Pokemon inside the games, and that the quality of the Pokemon games suffer by forcing in over 1,000 Pokemon when you include forms. So you can't.
No, that's not absolutely true. I don't think any Pokemon fan appreciates every Pokemon. I don't appreciate every Pokemon. I like the Pokemon that I like. I love bird Pokemon. They're really the ones that I truly appreciate. And I don't think I would even care if they found a way to put every Pokemon in, because not every Pokemon is for me. Pokemon have different fans, and everybody else has different reasons for the reason they want every Pokemon in the game. I simply want to play Pokemon Sword and Shield and be able to go through the adventure with a Pidgey. That's what I want. There's a chance that I might not be able to do that because they think that I care about the new Pokemon. I don't care about the new Pokemon. I care about the Pokemon I like. A lot of other people are in the exact same boat as me. They care about the Pokemon that they like. Yes, they're going to try out the new ones, but they're going to use the ones that they like. And that's how everybody is. So they are essentially shafting a large amount of Pokemon fans who play Pokemon games for very specific reasons, simply because they don't want to do the work. That's it.
Appreciate all the Pokemon, and the competitive just becomes an unplayable mess. So like every other game developer, they get temporary staffing, and they also reuse assets. But the thing is, they actually had to remake all the assets except for the animations.
No, they didn't.
It's not like, oh man, we're on time crunch, we have to just copy paste over all the animations. Why, when you have an animation that works fine, are you going to rebuild it?
Because they don't work that way.
That have just been completely forgotten by the Pokemon community, such as graphics being less important than gameplay, and also, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Tell them that.
Why? Like, yeah, if Funnelby had a different recoil animation, people wouldn't care for the amount of time it puts in. So that means we're sacrificing other features, other elements of quality in the game that are more important just because it's bad that they reuse assets like literally every other game developer. Good job with the future-proof of the models. How are you going to future-proof models when you can't predict where technology is going? Pokemon X and Y was in like development for 3 years before it came out or something, and with the 3D Pro, those were probably like 2010 models.
All right. The models used for Pokemon games are future-proof. They remake them as they need to. But the Pokemon models that you see in games now, those are going to be good 100 years in the future. Because the Pokemon models were designed to look like they do in the anime, like they do on model sheets. Those are fine. They are fantasy creatures. They don't need to be Ultra HD or anything like that. They just don't need to. These models are already future-proof.
And you can't predict what technology is going to do with Nintendo Switch in 2017 when you finally get around to making a game for 2019. Considering that, they future-proofed it pretty well to make it work throughout the entirety of the 3DS. You know, well, things aside, they made their decision of cut content. I made my decision not buy the games. Cool. Why are you on the Pokemon Reddit then? You're
because he cares.
Pokemon ecosystem. You're not buying the games.
Because he cares.
If there's actually enough of you, then your protest will matter and maybe game will change. But is this it? Do you have no other value to your life except for like, look at this. It's the
like, listen to what he said. You have no other value to your life because you disagree with the decisions that a company is making. if you disagree with the decisions that a company is making, you protest with your wallet. That's simply how it is. You don't let a company treat you any way that they want and then you still buy their product, because that tells them there's nothing wrong and everything is fine. Everything is not fine.
Complaints that are getting more more votes than what we see on the post itself of just straight up facts. And these people are straight up wrong because they don't understand game development, and their outrage just makes them not understand the most.
You don't understand game development. You're sitting here saying all this stuff like you've actually built games. There are people in this Reddit who've built games. There are people here who are 3D modelers and animators and telling you that this is in fact possible. I'm telling you that this is possible.
Basic of thoughts. So, and here we go, 75% upvoted. So
Nobody cares
came
about
in,
that.
It got ratioed, and then the facts ended up getting suppressed. Isn't that amazing? And yeah, good job of future-proofing. Here's also where Game Freak is put in an unwinnable situation. So, before they had to remake all the models, people were giving them crap for, it's like, oh, they're just recycling the same models that they have since Generation 6. They're terrible. So now, if they're future-proofing, that's a bad thing. But since they weren't able to future-proof, now they're also getting railed on that. Just proves the stupidity right there.
Yeah,
on top
it
of that
does.
issue, Dynamax forces Game Freak to produce extra models for each and every Pokemon. You can't just take the same size models increased by 10 and expect it to look half decent. Then Dynamax should have been scrapped, not the Pokemon. Once
Exactly.
again, unwinnable position for Game Freak. That if they didn't, let's say they brought back Mega and Z moves just because. Because that's the argument at this point. Bringing back features just because, whether or not innovation would be a better thing. The people are like, oh, Game Freak just does the same thing over and over. They don't change it up too much. And then they introduce something like Dynamax, which is one of the craziest mechanics we've ever seen introduced in Pokemon.
He says it's
and
innovative.
People hate it. So people.
No, this is Dynamaxing is it innovative. Here's how I think Dynamaxing works, and I have no proof of this, but considering this is a Nintendo game and a Pokemon game, they don't typically tend to innovate, as he puts it, and do things. Have you played Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask? You remember that fight where young Link fights I think it's one of the snakes, and he puts on the Giant's mask? You know how they did that, right? They didn't actually scale Link up to be, 300 feet tall or make a new model to convey that. Literally what they did was scale everything else down and let Link stay the same size to make it appear like he's bigger. The reason they did that is simply because you just can't scale up an N64 model like that and have textures remain crisp. But you absolutely can scale things down and details be maintained, because that's simply just how pixel ratio works. The smaller you scale something, the more information that's retained. Yes, information is still destroyed, but it doesn't get destroyed in the same way if you scaled something up, 800 pixels when the original pixel density was about, 16. So how I think Dynamaxing is working is they are actually taking everything else around the Pokemon and scaling it down so the Pokemon itself appears big. But since you are in 3D space and you have things like cameras that can zoom in on stuff, you can still maintain that same quality, that same pixel density on smaller models than you would on something that's scaled up. Now, they probably add an extra animation or two, or maybe a new facial expression, but that's honestly how I think that works. They put on a new shader around the Pokemon so you can't really tell if there's any pixel loss or anything like that. But that's honestly how I think Dynamax is working. And I really want to know if that is what they're doing, or if they actually are just scaling up the models. Like I said, you can scale up models indefinitely and they still retain all information. The only thing that's lost is the texture that it might have if you have a low quality textures. And looking at the things that they have in the game right now, texture animation doesn't look that high. Especially if you look at some of the other Pokemon, you can still see pixels. So I honestly think they're just scaling everything else down around the Dynamax Pokemon to give the appearance that the Pokemon is getting much bigger.
People hate it when things stay the same, but they're also ignorant and tolerant for when things change. And then Dynamax should have been scrapped, not the Pokemon. Why? Dynamax looks to improve competitive, which is the reason why
Nobody cares about competitive. Like, that's the thing. When you take your game and try to make it for a very specific audience, especially when your game has been known as a very casual friendly game. You risk alienating everyone else. Nobody cares about competitive Pokemon. Nobody cares about that. People do care about the integrity of their Pokemon games. They want to make sure that everything is maintained. Are the features that people liked, are they still there? Are the features that people disliked, are they still there, or have they been reworked into something new so they feel fresh and could possibly win Pokemon or people back over? That's the thing that we care about. I like Mega Evolution. I think most other Pokemon fans like Mega Evolution, so why get rid of it? Nobody cares about a Pokemon Go inspired feature in a core game. That's mainly what it is. Why is it that things that people liked going away?
The Pokemon were scrapped. That it wasn't because they didn't have time. It wasn't because the Switch isn't big enough. No one from Game Freak has said that. That's just a straw man that's come out from these idiots out here, just
Idiots.
making things up to try to make Game Freak look worse. And when the facts come out, they keep spreading their lies and misinformation.
Well, no, nobody's trying to make Game Freak look worse. Nobody's spreading lies or misinformation. We are saying on a home console that is probably 10 times more powerful than the 3DS, why does the game look the exact same? Why isn't there any innovation? They told us when Pokemon Sword and Shield, no, Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu and Eevee came out, when there was a huge backlash about that. They made an emergency direct and told us that the new Pokemon game that they're making for the Nintendo Switch is going to be what the fans wanted. It's not what the fans want. We want something more. Look at what happened with Mario Maker 2. The fans didn't like the fact that they were making certain changes to leaderboards or not putting in certain things because they didn't feel that integrity would be upheld if they did. The fans complained about it. Nintendo listened. They fixed it. That's how this should work. We see the game. We saw what it's like. The game is most likely finished now, and they're just polishing some things here and there. But we see what the game is like. The way the game is now is what we're likely to get, and we're not happy with it. So we're saying, before you give us the game, change some things. Hell, even Paramount is actually making concessions with the Sonic fan base and changing Sonic's design. The community didn't like it. They complained. They listened. They changed it. That's how this works. When people like you get along with your large following, which is so much more larger than mine, and I'm sure you'll bring that point up if you make a response to this video. When a person like you, in the position that you are, with thousands of followers, you influence more people. So you should look at these things and be like, okay, this could change. Maybe we need to voice our opinion a little bit more. Let's be respectful about it and make sure that we get change so that Pokemon Sword and Shield is the best game that we can possibly get. You're not doing that. Instead, what you're doing is calling everyone else idiots and morons and spreading misinformation and lies because they are concerned about the game that they are going to be spending money on. Remember, the Pokemon Company only gets money if we, the consumer, buy their product. If we are not happy with their product and not spending money on it, they'll get that message and say, okay, we messed up somewhere and we need to go back and fix it because we can't afford for this game to fail. And nobody wants this game to fail. No one wants Game Freak to fail. Nobody wants the Pokemon Company to fail. We want this game to be good. We're simply saying, hey, we do not agree with some of the decisions that you guys have been making, and can you fix them before the game gets released? That's it.
They should have worked on getting all the
Sorry
Pokemon
for the rant.
viable for their new system. Except, even if they had all the Pokemon viable for the new system, they wouldn't want to put in the games anyways because of other quality and game feel reasons. Before
Like
we got a
what?
new gimmick, they should have easily saved from the next game. But I mean, there's going to be Pokemon Generation 4 remakes most likely as the next game, so that's going to have its own gimmick and something else. That when you have this new region like Galar, when you have something that's new, that's when you make the new things instead of toying with an established system like that. And once again, like, yeah, if they brought back Mega Evolution Z moves but didn't bring any new Mega Evolutions, people would be upset.
I mean, people would be upset they didn't bring any new Mega Evolutions in, but for a game like that, if they're returning a mechanic, the proper thing to do is to improve on that mechanic. Bring Megas in for Pokemon that you want to give them for. I don't think any Pokemon fan will miss Z moves. I personally don't like the idea of random nukes that can just kill a Pokemon for no reason, simply because you guessed wrong. At least with Mega Evolutions, you know which ones can Mega. If your opponent brings 3 Megas and they Mega 1, you know the other 2 aren't going to Mega. That's the thing there. We're saying if Mega Evolutions are going to be in the game, then there should be more. If Mega Evolutions, or there aren't going to be any new Mega Evolutions, if there aren't going to be any more new Mega Evolutions, then can you at least fix the ones that currently exist to make them feel better? I think some should be a little bit better, and they've been changing things here and there, but that's just generally how we feel about that.
But then if they do new Mega Evolutions, then Mega fails completely. There's like 70, 80 Mega Evolutions, and you can only choose one per battle. So that means 99% of them don't get to be used, or 96%,
well, there are options,
4% or whatever the math is behind that.
You give people options.
It's just a result of bad project planning.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Anyone's saying that Pokemon Sword and Shield is rushed.
So are you telling me that we, the fans, forced them to make 1,000 Pokemon? We forced them to create all these Pokemon? No, we didn't do that. They chose to make over 1,000 Pokemon. Now, us as fans, we have expectations that need to be met. You are building a world. When you start removing things from a world, it feels less like a world, and it just feels like mechanics at that point. Nobody is saying that every Pokemon needs to be obtainable during the main playthrough. No Pokemon game has ever been like that. But we're saying post game, we should be able to transfer Pokemon in. This is the Pokemon world. This region exists in the Pokemon world. Kanto exists in this same world. So why can't I bring a Pidgey over? Oh, because you said so. Because you said so. No, that's not how that works.
Is an idiot.
Who's an idiot?
Because you look at everything that's going on. It's like, no, it's not bad project planning. Their project planning is really solid. It's that you...
How is it solid? If you can't deliver a project or a product and you've had years to develop it, that absolutely sounds like bad project planning. Look at what happened with Pokemon Go in that launch. That was a disaster. Poor project management. You're going to tell me that a franchise as big as Pokemon was just supposed to handle server stress for a new Pokemon mobile game? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Disagree with their vision of the games. And I don't understand, like, how hard is it to just accept reality when it comes to that? How hard?
Okay, so look, when it comes to a game designer's vision, and I wholeheartedly believe that any person who's developing a game should have their vision realized. Nobody else should have anything to say about that. But their vision can still be realized by not making every single Pokemon accessible during the main playthrough. Simply cutting Pokemon from the game isn't anyone's vision. Like, how is that a vision? To make a lower quality product. Nobody wants to go in and make a bad game. They did the game like this simply because they knew people like you wouldn't complain about it. You would just accept it. The problem is the internet is very powerful.
How hard is it to go, Game Freak doesn't want the Pokemon in? It's not because of graphics. It's because of competitive. Even though if you're not a competitive person, that's the fact. You know, that's what they said. The biggest reason with that. And then the second biggest reason, also not graphics. Second biggest reason is there's just too many Pokemon to appreciate all of them. That they want the experience to be better by having...
I'm saying, but nobody is going to appreciate every single Pokemon. Like I said before, I don't appreciate every single Pokemon. Just the ones that I care about. And when you have literally millions of Pokemon fans that feel the exact same way, they feel like they're being left out. It's like when people complain that they're pandering to Gen 1ers when all they're doing is shoving Pikachu, Eevee, Charizard, and Mewtwo down your throat. I'm like, when was the last time that Butterfree was being pandered to anybody? Or Pinsir or anything else like that? No, you group everybody in because they keep showing Charizard or Mewtwo or Eevee or Pikachu, when that's not the case. You can't say that's Gen 1 pandering. So how can you sit here and say that statement like that? You just can't.
Having the select picked Pokemon to work with the Galar region And I appreciate that more. I'd rather not juggle 1,000 Pokemon in a single game. That's stupid. Also,
Why
when it
not?
comes to people that don't have Pokemon Bank, they are massively disadvantaged because they don't have this existing bank of Pokemon to then
So
automatically get the National Dex for free.
that doesn't
I'd
matter.
rather work for my things from the ground up on a new console like
We did
this,
work
and
for
then
our
be able to
things.
appreciate everything and have
We
less
absolutely
stress
did work
from
for our
all the
things.
content bloat going
No, see, I don't think you understand how this works. Just because a newcomer to a product or an IP or something comes in and they don't have the same access that us, the veteran players, have been playing with, doesn't mean you suddenly get rid of those things. Otherwise, every single game would be bad. Could you imagine playing League of Legends if you had to? Well, not me, because I don't play the game, but if anybody who plays League of Legends had to suddenly wipe their account because new players came to the game. Oh well, you're not allowed to use this hero anymore because we want to make sure that newer people can have, a fair time against you, despite the fact that you've got like 13 years of experience and all this other stuff that literally takes time to develop. I mean, I guess that's the end of that rant right there.
on. And then look at this. If you have a contradicting argument to the mob outrage, you get downvoted into oblivion.
Well,
You
yeah,
could
that's
have
how
this
Reddit works.
opposite argument for the one for Dynamax as well. I would say I'd rather have the option of Dynamaxing my favorite Pokemon than having the ones I don't care for included for the game at all. Ridiculous. Caring about gimmicks more than the game content.
Yeah.
Gimmicks are the game content.
Well, no,
and
gimmicks are supposed to
Dynamaxing
make the
is
game
going
more
to
fun.
most likely improve competitive and battle health more than Megas or Z moves.
How?
And even it's not even a competitive argument. Megas, they destroy the entire game flow of Pokemon X and Y because once you get Megas, you just one-shot everything. Same for Z moves. There was this weird thing in Pokemon Sun and Moon where most of the trainers were just in your way and only had one Pokemon. So you one-shot them on a Z move and then the battle ends. That's not healthy for the game. That's not healthy for anything. With Dynamax, it's only
That's
going to
just
be in certain
game
areas like
mechanics.
the wild area, which is mostly going to be focused on the raid battles, which is more content coming from this feature, and gym battles, where your opponent can also do that, and it doesn't become a one-shot battle. How is this half effort? How? How
It
in
is.
any measurable, conceivable, objective view is this half?
That's the same
like, you just
Hydreigon
can't
model,
break
by the way.
stupidity. And as you can see, when something comes through, GG. As a 3D modeler, animator, rigger, bang set on table, these models have plenty of polygons to be sized up with little or no loss in quality. Okay, you make something that works exclusively on the 3DS, not being able to replay.
Okay, like this isn't something that works exclusively on a 3DS. This is just how 3D models work in general. They have plenty of polygons. You remember that thing that I said that polygons, 3D models are based on math and not pixels? A model that's been sized down to the size of a thumb that has 3 million polygons will still have 3 million polygons at that size whether or not you scale it up. Now you see the polygons more the bigger they are because there's more or there's less space between polygons, but they're still there. These Pokemon models have plenty of polygons available to be sized up. And even then, I honestly don't even think they're sizing them up. And I think they're just sizing everything else down because it's easier to do that than to remake a new 3D model for something like that. I can almost guarantee you they're not doing that.
Animation that works in Blender or anything like that. Actually something that can be coded and programmed into the games and then scale it into an entirely different engine and console with graphic resolution and frame rates.
Yeah, do you know what an FBX file is? That's exactly how that works.
It's not like you're just upscaling it to make a fancier movie.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this is, again, some kid that just toys around Blender and then is just like,
No, you don't know anything about how 3D animation modeling works. I mean, I don't want to say it's super complex, but it's a very complex thing. And the fact that you're going against somebody who is telling you that they do this is what they do, and saying, oh, well, you're wrong because if you put it into a game engine, that's not how it works. You do realize game engines uses the exact same file that these programs render, right? They're the exact same files.
3D modeler and Game Freak sucks. Stupidity.
He did
And
not
people
say
just
that.
Don't believe it because this guy has no credentials and gives himself false credibility. But since it's against Game Freak, he's right.
I mean, I generally don't
That's the
trust
only reason
anybody
why.
on the internet, but I know how
More
this
understandable
works.
if they said this. Yeah, I think they should have said this more on a more open area. But once again, if you're Game Freak, if you're a developer, Game Freak knows they are not being lazy and that they are doing all of the all their reasons are sound and logical, and all the hate is pretty much invalid at this point. That they don't think they need to be cautious with every single word that they say. They're just like, they're going to be honest with their fans, and they're going.
I actually want to know about this guy right here. Pikachu is God. I want to know more about that guy. I want to know what goes on, in his life. The fact that he got caught up in a Verlisify video. I want to know more about this person here.
To expect their fans to appreciate the work they've put into these incredible games. So there we go, guys. I'm at a loss for words at this point.
Yeah, me too.
That's why I need you guys to share this video. And
I need you guys to share this video right here.
We have hit peak delusion. We have hit.
He wants to talk about delusion when he's the delusional one.
I cannot imagine, and just idiocy.
Idiocy.
You're so toxic calling people idiots. Yeah, and then that person hypocritically turns around and calls like anti-vaxxers idiots or something like that. There is.
Well, yeah, it's because anti-vaxxers are idiots. I mean, it's been proven that the guy who went around saying that did it so he can sell his product. Vaccinations work. Vaccinations don't cause problems. You might have a case where somebody gets a reaction to it, but there's literally millions that doesn't. I mean, that's just as stupid as you saying, oh, well, you can't call flat earthers idiots. Why not? They are.
Stupidity in this world. It is.
There's a lot of stupidity in this world. I will agree with that.
Intolerant and delicate.
As a matter of fact, that's the only thing we do agree on.
You have to call it out. That these are the facts, and when people refuse the facts, that makes them dumb. The science deniers and all that stuff. Those people don't get, any kind of support. But when they share the same ideology as you,
he say
share the same ideology as you, people refuse the facts. That makes them dumb. Science deniers and all that stuff.
Yeah, he said science deniers. Where did that come from?
Those people don't get, any kind of support. But when they share the same ideology as you, suddenly the person calling out their stupidity is now the bad guy.
Yeah, that sounds like every Verlisify video ever made, I think. Right? Yeah. He does that exact same thing. You don't disagree with me, you're wrong. Didn't Omni doing an interview with Verlisify, and he was just spewing the same stuff and came to the conclusion where Verlisify just can't be helped? He can't be helped. I feel Verlisify is like the Sky Plays Minecraft of YouTube. Like, kids found Verlisify first before they found Shofu. Like, and that's unfortunate.
I can't believe it.
Me either.
I just don't know what to say anymore.
Yeah, me either. Yep. That's about that. Yeah, you can kind of see the videos that I watch. I watch a lot of Grand Pooh Bear with that Super Mario Maker. But wow, did you guys hear the things that he's talking about? We're all wrong. We're idiots and morons because we want more for our product. Because we think, well, no, not that we think, because we know that it can be better. I mean, us as fans is doing some very capable things with Pokemon, the 3D models that are out there. And even if they just made a posting saying, hey, we need help with 3D models. Does anybody want to come and help us out? We're not going to pay you for it, but your name will be in the credits. You know how many people will step up and say yes? If the Pokemon company let, like, us, the fans, make a Pokemon game, like a fully fledged Pokemon game, can you imagine how good that would be? All the mechanics that'd be in it. You know what we could do with that in a year? If just the internet came together to make a Pokemon game for free. I mean, these three companies got billions of dollars together. And then this is, what we get. I mean, there's not anything here or anything like that. But
it destroys their...
We don't care about that. But, like, this is what we get. This is what a company of three. And I actually can't say that all three of those companies work on it, because Nintendo is just a publisher. They don't actually develop for this game. They tell them what to do in the game. But Game Freak is, the developer of this game. And even the Pokemon company works closely with them. And the Pokemon company was okay with this. And don't get me wrong, this looks fine. If they didn't come out and say that, we want to make, higher quality animations, we want to have more expressions and all this other stuff. If they didn't come out and say any of that, everybody will be fine with this. Well, maybe not everybody. People will be complaining that you can't get every Pokemon in the game. But if they didn't try to give us a bullshit reason why they were removing things from the game. This would probably be okay. It's like, okay, it's a Pokemon experience. This is what it is. And we'll probably just call this a side Pokemon game and wait for whatever their new Pokemon game is. But this here is a main title game. Nothing should be missing from it at all. It should be a complete game because we are tired of having games given to us half done. We want a full experience. And it's hard to have that full experience when the post game isn't there. Because that's the reason why you play single player games. You want to know what that post game is. What challenges can I do? What else can I bring into this game? And we can't do any of that. It's simply just this single player experience that's just story. And I guess competitive, but I mean, if nobody's favorite Pokemon are there, they're probably not going to deal with that. But that's the video that I just wanted to make. I can't believe that he said all those things. And like, I honestly think Verlisify is a successful troll. There is no way a person can exist like that and believe everything that he's saying. Wow. Just wow. Yeah, be sure to share this video with your friends. I want to know what everybody thinks. I'm going to get the Verlisify hate squad and they're going to downvote this video into oblivion. But, you know, I kind of want to know. Share this video because more people need to be talking about this toxicity in the Pokemon community.